everybody. Welcome to the Fired Up with CJ show. Today we're going to be talking about ninja skills, the Authentic Ninja Training Manual. And we have Antony Cummins here talking to us. So, welcome.
Hi, thank you very much.
So, you just got back from Japan.
Yes, I did. I spent a month out there trying to track down some new scrolls, and I failed.
Oh, I'm sorry.
However, it was the last-ditched attempt at trying to find this lost scroll, and I've got no more ideas now. But it's still the search is still on.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I want to know about what kind of research that you did for this book, because it sounds like you're doing a ton of research. You're looking for scrolls. That's something.
Basically, okay, let me start from the beginning. Is the ninja are very famous. Everybody knows about ninja. And I was obsessed with ninja since a child. However, what we know about them is pretty much historically inaccurate. So I've put together a mini team in Japan. I'm literally a handful of people, and we searched Japan for scrolls. And for the last 10 years, we've been translating, putting them together, doing the history, and bringing out the original scrolls. However, they're very complicated, very medieval, so a lot of people get bogged down in it. So we brought out ninja skills to break it up and make it very easy for people.
Wow. Okay, so is it is it the kanji, the typical form of Japanese, or is it like in an ancient style that is incomprehensible? Like, how did you even learn to read these scrolls?
Actually, that's not my part of the job. I can answer your question. That's no problem. But just to let everybody know, my Japanese is terrible. It was very quickly obvious that I needed a professional with me. So I do the history side. I've got a master's degree in history and archaeology. And I've got my main partner, Yoshie, business partner. She does the translation. She's Japanese, of course, and she's got a degree in translation and linguistics. However, to answer your question is yes, it is quite different. So Japanese can be, what the word is kanji, which means the Japanese language, but it's old vocabulary. So you're looking at very old vocabulary, sometimes old grammar, and sometimes sloppy handwriting.
Wow.
So it's sometimes difficult to read, sometimes easy.
Okay, so what are you looking? So first of all, what's on a scroll? Who wrote the scroll? And what do you find? What is it that you're finding when you're reading them?
Right. Okay. So the ninja were massive from about 1400 to about 1600. They were like special forces, black ops guys, and they were behind enemy lines. And then after the wars finished, it became peace in Japan. There was no real need for them anymore. So a lot of them started writing down their family traditions in secret scrolls. Now, it's a big custom in Japan to write down secret scrolls. So it's not only the ninja doing it. And then they would pass them on master to student. And in the end, in the late 1800s, when the samurai finished, all these went into museums, collections, private collections. Some of them went in the bin, the trash, Oh, there's tons destroyed. There's lots destroyed in World War II. So I am now on the hunt to find every scroll in Japan and bring them together.
Wow. And so how do people tell you about them? Like, oh, I have a scroll. Would you like to read it? Or what? How do you even find out about these scrolls that you said you were looking for these 5 scrolls you said that were in Japan? Like, what were they and what were you looking for?
Well, the scrolls come in 2 different formats, realistically. You're going to get the privately owned ones. Actually, say 3. You've got privately owned ones by collectors. You've then got ones that are owned by museums or collections that won't let you see them. So they're private. Even though it's a collection, they say you can't see it. And the other ones are public libraries. But there's hundreds of thousands of scrolls in Japan, from flower arrangement to fireworks to everything. So you've got to really dig deep. So, however, one of the best stories I've got about a scroll collection, actually, if you want one of the best stories I've got is I've been in a million secondhand bookshops in Japan to get every 1950s book. Because if you get all these books, it was a ninja boom, and they sometimes have pictures of old scrolls that are now in private collections. So I can blow them up, photocopy them, and check what it says.
Wow.
However, it was a bit of a fairy tale moment, to be honest, because there was this glass cabinet in one of them, and I was just looking for a normal secondhand book. I'd gone there, and this little old Japanese man, very Disney stereotypical wisdom man, comes over and says, "Have a look in the cabinet." And I'm thinking, I'm hungry, I can't be bothered, please go away. But he's like, no, come on. So I'm like, okay. We open the cabinet, and I'm looking through them. I've got one of my translators with me, and I'm like, yeah. And then we stop at one which has the title torn off. And my translator's nudging me and saying, I think I know this scroll. It's very difficult. It was extremely difficult. But he said, I think we've worked on a section of something like this. So I looked at it and it was only $30. Now, I was like, that is ridiculously cheap. So I buy this scroll. We take it to the coffee shop, open it up. And it turns out it's one that was sold in a private collection. Not this one, but a copy of one for $10,000. Yeah,
Wow.
and it is a sought-after ninja scroll. And the one that went for $10,000 was in 1800. And this one was possibly the original or the second or third copy, which was 1660s. So I've got this 1660s original ninja scroll in my hand. And it was literally this little old wizard man said, look at this. Straight out of a fairy tale.
Wow. Okay, so what did it say? The 1600. What? So it must be something pretty famous, or is it famous, or are they just interesting because they have this allure and interest?
It's mainly the reason the price goes up is simply its demand, because everybody loves ninja. There's no difference between them and other scrolls, say on archery or something like that. But there's thousands and thousands of archery scrolls, but not many ninja scrolls. And the collectors, the rich collectors, just pick them up. And they put the price through the roof. So you can't buy a ninja scroll. It's impossible. But I own 3 now by pure mistake. Because after that one, we finally got the name of someone, led us on to something else where a woman was literally, her father had just died. So she was selling a collection off, didn't know what she had, sold it to me. I didn't know if it was worth much for about $200. And that was another version of the same one. It just came in waves. We've now published that, actually. So it was almost like the ghost of the ninja was like, there you go. You go.
Yeah, right. Wow.
So in these scrolls, what you've got is people will record the ways of the ninja. And it's a lot of things. We're talking about spying, commando tactics, black magic. And I say black magic, I mean literally quite dark stuff. And it's lots of sometimes esoteric, sometimes practical. So, for example, how to use a rope to get over a wall, but also which spell to use to be invisible to your enemies.
Oh, wow. So that's the kind of black magic kind of stuff that you found. Wow, that's fascinating. Okay, so in your book, you actually, I found this fascinating. I was coming back from a really long retreat. I was totally exhausted, and I thought, no, I need to read this book. And I was like, oh, God, I got to read a book. But then I was like, oh, my God, this is fascinating. So some of the lessons are fundamental concepts, infiltrating skills, climbing skills, escape and hiding skills, night attack skills, defensive skills, communication skills, aquatic skills, scouting skills, skills for capturing criminals, fire skills, skills of heaven, mystical skills, and skills of the mind. So these are all skills that you gathered from scrolls, or is it your historical background in the scrolls? How did you come upon this information?
Right. Well, what you've read out there is pretty much answers the question of what is in a ninja scroll. I picked those to give you an overall, so everybody can come at it and be like, okay, that's pretty much the scope of ninjutsu. Wow. That's what it is. So this book is based on one of the biggest ninja scrolls that there ever was. It's massive. It's called the Bansen Shukai, which means many rivers come into one ocean. And it was written by a man in 1676. And he realized that the ninjas were declining, the wars had finished, their skills were going. So he wrote a colossal, it's like 500, 600 pages of information on ninjas. And that's what we're doing. We're breaking that down now. Because literally, people buy the book, and the Book of Ninja. It's by the way, it's by Watkins as well. And they'll read it, and you can tell they're like, this is too different. I don't get this, Anthony. What's going on? So that's why we broke it into those sections.
Yeah, and it's actually perfect for someone like myself because I like pictures.
Well, to be honest, that was it. It was accessibility. People want pictures. I call it the YouTube culture. We want quick 5-minute information.
Yeah, this is like the executive summary version of like, okay, I get it. If I want to do this is what. So I wanted to talk about some of the fundamental concepts, which I thought were really fascinating. I didn't even know. So first of all, there's the origin of the universe. And you talk about, which I found fascinating. So let's start from the beginning, some of the fundamental concepts. So the path of the I don't know how to pronounce it.
Right, okay, it's Shinobi.
Shinobi,
so, let me explain that to people then. So everybody knows the word ninja. That's it. Yes. That character.
Yes.
Everybody knows the word ninja. There are two ways minimum to read pretty much every Japanese term. So one of them is ninja. The other one is shinobi no mono. And it means they're the same. It means the same. It's the same piece of writing. However, it's the two ways of saying it. The shinobi no mono is the Japanese way. Ninsha or ninja is the mock Chinese way.
Oh.
That's why. And however, in history, they never used the word ninja, or we believe they never used the word ninja. It was always shinobi or shinobi no mono.
Wow.
And
So
it means
weird.
person of stealth or person of perseverance.
Wow. Okay. Do you think that in the past life you were a ninja?
Well, let me, can I just explain this first, right? I normally don't put any sort of spiritual aspect to my answers. However,
Right.
there's what we know. I believe there's what we know, what we believe, and what we want. What do I know? I've no idea. Would I like to have been a ninja in a past life? I would love it. You know what I mean? Do I believe it? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I believe. However, that comes up all the time in Japan. They're like, you used to be a ninja. You used to be a ninja, which makes me smile. It was a lovely thought. I hope so.
Well, because there's pictures of you carrying these things. You look legit, man. Like, look at this. There's like a bloody inspecting entrails. It's passage.
Well, to be honest, that's partly because I can't afford a really top-rate illustrator. If I could afford a top-rate illustrator, I'd get anime, comic styling. But otherwise, it's me and my friends with a white background.
But seriously, look at this picture. It's you grabbing the heart of someone, examining the heart of someone.
It's actually his stomach. What I'm doing there, what I'm doing is I've killed a castle guard. I've pulled his stomach open. I pull it open and I look to see what they're actually eating. And if they're eating rice, it means they've still got stores. If they're not and they're eating grasses and like leather belts, it means they're starting to starve, which means we just hold off, the army holds off, and then we let them die. That's part of a ninja's job.
Who needs CSI when you can just rip into the stomach, look into the entrails, and figure out what the next step is for your enemy?
Did you eat all the cookies? Did you eat all the cookies right on the table?
Exactly. I know exactly where you've been based on your entrails. Okay, so let's go to the origins of the universe, which I think are just quite beautiful.
Yeah. Now, this is Taoist stroke Confucianism. So, which came from China to Japan. So it's not only the ninja that believe this, but you've got to understand. Remember, so I want everybody to understand is ninja were actually a sub-branch of the samurai. They are not separate from them. They're part of the samurai culture. Okay. And they do the jobs that other samurai say, oh, no, I'm not doing that. It's a bit dangerous. Or he's got to lie and cheat and all that. So they are.
They're like the Navy SEALs of kind of like. Okay, got it. Okay, got it.
It's pretty much the Navy SEALs. So this stuff people don't want to do. It's too hard to do.
Right.
But so that means it's a Japanese perspective. So Taoism came over, or Taoism, whichever way you say it, and with Confucianism, and that was quite big. And this is their origin story.
Okay, got it. So the origin is that there's a yin yang. So this is part of their whole thing. Yin yang, which is
there's like a pre-universe. It's before the universe, basically. It says it's not that there's something, but there is potential before it, if you like.
Okay.
And then it turns into the great ultimate, which is this. You could call it the Big Bang, if you like, or the whatever you would like to say. This starting focal single. I don't like to use the entity. It gets really bogged down with like academics saying it's not that, you know. But basically, this one thing starts, breaks into two, which is yin and yang, which is positive and negative, male and female, all of that. You then get the three, which is heaven, earth, and man. It then breaks into five, which are the obviously the 5 seasons and the 5 elements, things like that.
Well, 4 seasons, 5 elements.
Sorry, 4 seasons, 5 elements, and then you get the trigrams and then the created universe. However, sometimes that just goes one, positive, negative, the universe.
Okay, got it. And why does this matter? Like, how did the ninjas use this ideology, these fundamental concepts in their actual work?
Right. Well, for example, yin yang in Japanese is in and yo. So yo is, as you guys know, and as all listeners will know here, it's light and dark. So if a ninja is going to go dark, it means they won't let the enemy see them in any way, shape, or form. However, that means like literally creeping around. But if they go in disguise, which means they're in the open, they can be seen, they're pretending to be someone else, they are yang. So what they will do is get up to, say, a castle gate. They'll have so the guy, I've just looked into his stomach. I've also nicked the pass from his shoulder, and I've stolen his password. I've overheard it. So I'll go up to the gate and I use yang, which means I'm in the open. They can see me.
Okay.
And I go through, and then I find a dark corner, and I go to yin, and I go to darkness, and I creep through. And that's the way you will get through multiple checkpoints in a castle.
Okay, so they actually thought about these elements of female, male, yin, yang, light, dark. And so even in their practices of infiltrating, does one kill in a yin yang kind of way? Or is it just infiltrating? Where else does this idea of yin yang come up?
Well, it basically comes under everything. So, for example, when you need to know about the seasons, the directions. So if you go off in a certain direction, and it's the wrong time of year, and you've looked at your yin yang charts, your Taoist charts, you say, no, this is the wrong day to set off on my mission. So they had lots of charts and esoteric and all that. That's where it gets complicated. You've got chart in these ninja scrolls. You can have lists and lists of days you don't go out, days you do go out, when to fast, when not to fast, things like that.
Wow. Okay. So for folks who are not familiar, so the Taoists actually observe nature down to a part. It sounds like that they were actually charting down specific. So they could actually. This is like the original Farmer's Almanac. Is that right? Like, are they charting down like days that would be good or not based on like what the moon looks like, what the land looks like, what the seasons are, or what the. So it sounds what the seasons are, what the elements would say, and how would the elements flow into this?
So the elements, right? There's two sets of five elements
just
here.
For folks, earth, fire, metal, water, and wood. Yeah.
But the other one is the one which is the Buddhist one. So you get the other one, which has wind, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yes, it's got wind. And this one, or void as well. And this one's got metal. So they're totally different. One grew up from the Buddhist, which has connections to Greek, and the other one grows up from the Taoist Chinese. And both of them arrive in Japan because both came to Japan. So you've got totally different. So for those people who know Japanese history out there, Miyamoto Musashi, the famous swordsman, he goes from the Buddhist one. This one is the Taoist one. Now, what this means is there's a cycle of creation and destruction. Now, this is used for everyone. This is not just ninjas. This is what I'm saying. Everyone uses it.
Right.
So, for example, if a samurai wants to get his horse, he will get if you have to work out if you're in a cycle of generation or destruction.
Right.
So, fire. Let me just get you the page.
I'm trying to get the picture of it so that people can see what it looks like, but I can't remember what lesson it's in.
Right. Okay. It's on page 178, lesson 141.
Okay, got it. All right, there.
Yeah.
Right, there you go. There we go.
That's the one. Yeah, we've got them.
I'll show it when you're talking about it so people know.
So basically, as you can see there, you've got two things is you go in two circles, lessons of creation and lessons of destruction. So wood fuels fire. Fire produces ash, which produces the earth.
Right.
Earth contains precious metals. Metals can be shaped and they collect water, and water can then nourish wood, which grows and goes back to the beginning and fuels fire.
Okay.
So that's how that works.
So this is how things are created. These elements are created.
So that's how the universe then, from its 2 to 5, it will burst into many things. So sometimes they will jump sections. It depends on the lineage, but that's way too complicated. So what you then do is the problem is you get destruction cycles, which means it's not harmonious.
Right.
So, for example, in the creation, we'll do destruction, but in creation it's harmony, and they work with and flow into each other. In destruction, so for example, here you've got wood churns up the earth. The earth soaks up and takes water. Water will destroy and extinguish fire. Fire melts the metal down, and metal hacks into wood. Now, of course, that's a very simplistic idea. They don't mean that literally. Right. But what it means is if your energy, your star sign, or where you were born, everything, what element you are, means it will dictate what you do in your life.
Oh, wow.
So if I am water, the last thing I want to do is get involved with fire, because I will destroy that person's harmony. So if somebody wants me to help with their project, but they're of the fire element, and I come in and try and help, it'll probably all go wrong. No. Whereas do you see what I mean? Yes, it will destroy that way. Right. So you have to make sure the harmony works. Wow. So, for example, a samurai horse has to be of the certain color. There are 5 distinct colors, and it has to make sure it works in harmony with yourself.
Oh,
Then
interesting.
you go and you look on the bamboo, and on the first section of bamboo, if there's a little nodule or eye, you find out what direction it's pointing, and that is associated with one of the elements. And then you chuck that bamboo down and make sure it's in a generation cycle with you. So your horse, your armor, the color of the lacing, everything is about fierce, sort of forward pointing, yang,
Wow.
male, like that. You don't get anything that goes into a bad cycle.
Wow, that's fascinating. So it's super intentional. Every single
Yes.
thing that the people you surround yourself, the weaponry that you're arming yourself with, the horse that you're riding, you want it to be all in harmony. So, wow, that's interesting. So, how does one find out? I took a Chinese face reading class in which they give you 3 numbers. There's like a primary number, there's like the number of the year that you're born, and some other number. I think mine is, I can't remember what my number is, but it's like 17 something or other. It's wood, water, wood, whatever. Water, wood, and something else. So one would actually take these numbers and then actually figure out what kinds of people and situations would be harmonious.
I,
Wow.
to be honest, can't find. I find it so difficult. I have to go on a computer. It tells me mine from an application in Japan. I'm like, oh, okay, that's mine. So I have to find out that way because it is seriously difficult. I'm like getting my head around this stuff.
Okay,
But however,
one of them's Earth, right? When I look at yours, one is Earth. If one of your factors Earth.
mine will be. I think yes. If I remember rightly, I am fully Earth. I did have
Yeah,
it
I
all.
can
I've
tell
got
by
it
I can
written down.
tell by your face.
Oh, can you actually? Right. So there is actually in another manual called the Shoninki. It has face reading. Has Chinese face reading
Yes.
in ninjas. So yeah, I want to go to one. But
Yeah.
I think if I remember rightly, I'm Earth. I'm Earth with an element of something. I can't remember what it
With
is.
wood. If I were to look at your face, it's earth and wood. I'm Chinese,
That
and I took a Chinese face reading class, so
that amazing.
I'm somewhat legit, but not really. I'm not legit whatsoever. Okay, so then, so let's go into the cycle of destruction. So is this what I
Yep.
would use on my enemy then? So like I go in with my horse that's like tuned into me, with my riding partner that's tuned into me, with my spear that's tuned into me, and then like I want to wreak havoc and destruction. What do I what do I do now?
Right. So what you got that you can do, but mainly what you've got to do here is avoid destruction. That's the point, is you're not going
Ah,
to accidentally there. However, they did use it. So, for example, if the general of the army was in a creation cycle or a destruction cycle, they'd swap out the general, whichever way it went. So they'd say,
wow.
right, swap the general out. He's not. And then what they'd try and do is get into a certain direction so that the elements were against the other army. So you get what's called in Japanese gunbaisha, which means esoteric tactician, and you get normal tacticians, and them two come together and work out the practicality of going in that direction and the esoteric problems with going in that direction, and then they have to weigh up which is best.
Oh my goodness, that is
So, for example,
fascinating.
you know the Ursa Major, the
Yes.
star Ursa Major, the
Uh-huh.
constellation. The end star in that is called Hagun, which is the star of defeat, and you never face that star. So they have to look where that is. Ursa Major is. They'd have to look at the day, the time, the spiritual energy which it's going, what the enemy commander was, and then everybody would be vying for position on the battlefield. And then it gets to
Wow.
about the 1500s, and the generals say, right, let's forget all that. let's just murder everyone. It does actually change, and it becomes antiquated after about 1600 when they introduce the gun from the West.
I was gonna say, like, and then some guy with a gun comes and shoots them all as they're looking at their manuals and trying to consult everything.
Well, you're not far from the truth, to be honest. Japan was one of the biggest gun-producing nations in the world in the 1500s. A monk, or they say traders came and sold a gun to a monk or sold it to a local guy, and then they just mass-produced it, and pretty much took over the battlefield.
Wow. Okay, so wow, I just find all of this fast. I totally now understand why you would want to learn. This is fascinating.
That's why we've had to do this book. It was too complex. I'm not joking. I don't understand it wholesale. We are working through everything because it's so complicated. People don't
Wow.
realize how complicated samurai and Japanese warfare is. They literally, oh, the honorable samurai and the evil ninja. Like, no, I'm trying to get rid of that. It is a very, very complicated set.
Well, because so if I look at some of the esoteric stuff, it's like you have to do celebration of gods of war. There's a cycle of creation and destruction that we just talked about. There's this magical hiding. There's certain hand mudras.
Yes.
What is this? These two hand mudras. Tell me what those are all about. So one
So
of them is
yeah, that one that way, and there's this one. So
this one.
that,
It looks
yeah,
like this.
that one there, and then there's this one. To
Okay.
be fair, it is really difficult this because now it's unified and you've got lots of schools that teach singing, but back in Japanese time they would literally swap them in and out, and this school would swap that one and that school would have this one. But basically what happens here is you've got it's called Ongyo Jutsu, the skill of hiding, and you've got a chant, you've got something you think about, and you hide, and you use this. The idea is to hide yourself away, that you take it away. And then sometimes this one does, it's just like conceal yourself. And the idea is you're saying this, so you're walking along and they don't think it made them invisible, they don't think that. But what happens is if a guard comes along, they say just stop dead, don't move, because the movement attracts their attention. They can look at you. So stay in the dark. What they do is, this is why we know ninja didn't wear masks, because they cover their face.
Oh yeah, there's this fascinating picture. Oh, I wish I could remember what page it's on, where you show.
Yeah, it's a bit earlier on, isn't it?
Yes, but go ahead, explain it, and then I'm going to look for the picture.
So this, you basically hold it across your face, which cuts out the white of your face.
Right.
You'll probably have what's called a tenegu, which is a cloth over your head, and then you will chant in your mouth, and it's about the gods, different gods. Sometimes Marishiten, which is like the god of invisibility, or sometimes Kanon, and they mix them up, and then you've got this chant, and then you hold it. And the idea is that you're thinking, you're not projecting your energy to the enemies. They can't see you. You've stood still. And ninjas, this is why they need to know about the moon. They need to infiltrate on a dark side of the moon, basically, or the dark period of the moon. Right. So anywhere where the moon is more than half black. So when you look up at the moon, if it's more than half black, infiltrate. If it's starting to get more half white, don't go in. It's too bright.
Got it. Okay, got it. I get it. And so you're kind of looking at, you're saying these, so these mudras are ones that you should hold in your hands as a way of kind of like focusing all the energies towards not being seen.
Yes. And of course, they obviously believe the god is going to protect them. Right. Another one of my favorite ones, to be honest, which is not in this, from a different manual. It's the same thing, Ongyo Jutsu. And the idea is you wait for a lunar eclipse and you take a piece of wood and you will scrape this piece of wood onto a hairpin, and while you're scraping it, you've got this magic chant, and the idea is that the darkness of the lunar eclipse is absorbed into the wood, and when you go on your shinobi mission, you put the pin in your hair, because remember, samurai have long hair, so they will do that, and then they would be protected by the darkness of the moon. And if somebody comes across them, they say the chant again, and they envisage that there's black clouds around them, and the idea is that the god will protect them. A more dangerous version of that is you get a live pit viper. This is what we're talking about. That gets a bit evil. So a snake, a venomous snake, and you pick it up and you pull its fangs out, and then you put the fangs in your hair. And the same thing is that it will protect you from the enemy.
Oh my god!
Oh, it gets really horrible towards animals. To be fair,
super complicated. So, I mean, first of all, what kind of people? I mean, you have to be fairly intelligent to remember. I mean, the lexicon of like dates and chants and holding and physical tactics. I mean, you have to, it sounds like you have to actually be multi-talented to actually be a ninja. How long are you trained for? Like, what's the training involved to be a ninja? Because this is a lot of information, and you have to be relatively intelligent to kind of figure this whole thing out. Because these are just, a lot of these are kind of the physical things, but they're not necessarily, and they're kind of the mystical pieces. But how did someone learn about this?
Well, you got to remember, first of all, that a lot of it is just in their culture. So when it comes to the calendar, you'll actually have like a wise man, if you like, in the village who will go through the calendar. So everybody will know north means this, south means that. That's just basic information that everybody knows. So you'll already have a good foundation in it. Right. But you're quite correct. A lot of the scrolls say, ask an expert in this field. Speak to an expert of court rituals. But they do. But what a lot of people, there's a myth going around. If anybody's interested in the ninja, there's a myth going around that the ninja are these low-class farmer, you know, who will do the opposite of samurai and they defeat the evil samurai. That's not true. Basically, you're looking at the CIA and the Navy SEALs mixed together. So you wouldn't have a stupid idiot who's running your spy network. It just wouldn't happen.
Right.
So you get those. So some schools break it into 5 types of ninja. You get like you get Sun Tzu's 5 types of spy, and then in Japan they do another 5 types of ninja. And the idea is that you got a hot-blooded guy who's like literally doing press-ups all day, you know, lifting rocks. He's got a smart head. You send him to the enemy. He's the guy who gets the black on and goes in and kills people.
Right.
But you've got another guy who's just amazing at languages. He can speak 10 dialects if you like. Okay, he's your dialect expert. Let's train him in disguise. And he goes off wandering around the villages, speaking in different dialects and collecting information. Everybody has their place. So you could be hyper intelligent, or you could just be a really good commando, you know. But of course you've got to have a certain level of intelligence.
Right. So there are 5.
Otherwise you just rank and
So who are the other 3? There's kind of the bulky, aggressive dude. There's the
so basically, it actually goes. Now you're going to have to make me memorize these.
Yeah,
let me try. That's all right. You've got those who endure people. They can endure, so they can put themselves below. Remember, a samurai is very honorable, and he has to pretend to be someone. He's not like a merchant or something. So, and you've got to be a low-class beggar, and from someone who gets served every day with plates of food, and he's got to then endure people telling him. Then you get the people who can endure death, i.e. those who just go for it and kill. Those who can you're gonna make me think now. Ego. Those who can. So remember, you're out there, the enemy, you're talking to enemy spies, they're interacting with each other, and they say, well, tell you what, because the spy networks went all over Japan and they spoke to each other. We actually know enemy spies spoke to each other, and they'll say, I'll tell you what, I'll give you 1,000 gold pieces if you come over to our side, or you can have these women, or we'll give you this land in this area. So you send someone there who you know has got no greed. And then the other one is desire. Someone who wants, he's a good lad, he doesn't really want gold, but sex will get him every time, or, alcohol will get him every time. Don't send that guy or girl.
Okay, got it. So it's like basically you're kind of looking at these attributes of people and like picking, kind of getting a sense of their attribute and placing them. They have to probably be a certain bar of intelligence, physical prowess, and then beyond that, then they're segmented within these 5 groups depending on kind of their behavioral or special talents that they have.
They say there's 3 main things you need to be a ninja. One is physically robust. So you've got to be able to survive the cold, get out there. One is to look stupid. They want ugly, stupid-looking people because everybody ignores ugly, stupid-looking people. And the other one is intelligent. So highly intelligent, looks like an idiot, doesn't get a cold. And there you go. That's your ninja.
Well, you know what's so funny? I was in a class with these, what are they called? Rangers? In the Army, the equivalent of the Navy SEAL are Rangers, right? Is that what they're called? Okay.
To be honest, I'm from England, so I have no idea.
Okay.
It's totally different.
I think they're Rangers or something like that. So I'm in the class with these guys. And I'm like, frankly, those guys look like morons. And of course, I have lunch with them because why not? So I'm like, hey, I sit down with them on lunch. And then they're telling me about how they did things like were closed in a box and stayed in a box for weeks. Like they were trying to get someone who could actually be trapped in a box for a week and live and not go mentally crazy. Yes. And so I was like, wow. And then plus this guy spoke 3 different languages. But if you look at him, he had a baseball cap. You would not, he was indiscernible from any other guy that you would see in the middle of nowhere. You just wouldn't notice him at all. And he didn't appear highly intelligent, although every single one of these guys were incredibly intelligent, and they were just, like you said, those 3 attributes were exactly the same 3 attributes of these guys.
That's good to know, actually. Yeah,
that's but
really
what's interesting is that they didn't look highly intelligent. They look like a normal kind of guy who was maybe on the dumb side. So,
yeah, I know what you mean. Bottle of beer, football match.
Exactly. I think he was chewing a piece of hay. I would have seen that happen. No.
And all that. Yeah. And that's the ones. But it's for that very reason. Is because your assumption, if you hadn't spoke to them, your assumption would have stayed the same, and you would have ignored them then.
Yes.
So that's the point, is you send those guys in and nobody pays attention to them.
They don't. That was fascinating. So, okay, so let's go to the skills of the mind. Yep. So tell me a little bit about this idea of observing the inner mind and detaching from life or death. So, so,
Okay,
so
which
this
one
is,
would you want to start on?
I don't know, just like, why don't we start on observing the inner mind? Well, I guess we should start off with the concepts of Jinshin and Doshin.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this everybody actually knows this, and we have this in Western culture where it's the angel and the devil on your shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is it's the basically the way of heaven and the mind of man. And the idea is that the way of heaven is always there in your mind. It's telling you what's right. And if you listen to it, it will be correct. It is never wrong. It is always correct.
Mm-hmm.
However, mind of man is clever and it will persuade you 100%, or you might not even be listening. So first step is open up so know there's a dual dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Second is identify which is heaven and which is you. You
Right.
know, and there's always one way I can explain this. I must admit, I've used this example many, many times, but I'll use it here again. Is if you say to someone, you've got a choice, would you like to eat cake or would you like to eat broken glass?
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is people say, well, obviously it's a trick question, but I'll pick cake. You're like, no, you've got a choice. You could choose not to eat those things. Glass will kill you instantly and cake will kill you over a slow period of time and rot your teeth out. Neither of them are good. So they're both mind of man. But you have gone through a process of persuading yourself that cake is good because it's not as bad as glass. So that's how twisted mind of man is. Whereas the truth, if you wait, is like, I'll tell you what, I'll just have a glass of water and, whatever is not going to kill me in the long run.
Right.
So that's the idea of it.
Right. That we actually, at any point in time, have like a divine voice and kind of like our egoic
Yes.
voice, and how can you actually discern which is speaking to you at each time?
And
Yeah.
all you have to remember is at all times, your own voice is absolutely just trying to trick you. That's 100%. It isn't ever correct. It's always trying to trick you into saying, just do it. It's okay. I'll go on a
You
diet
mean your
tomorrow.
lower voice is always trying to
Yes,
trick you?
basically, your lower voice is trying to trick you. And what is this principle? They say like this principle of health is innate. It's your Buddha mind, if you like. It's the innate wisdom of the universe before you. It's correct. I.e.,
Right.
you sully it, if you like. You dirty this way.
Okay. So how does one actually get to their higher mind versus how do they discern? What are some things that they can do?
Well, basically, a lot of it is just identification. Make sure. So what they do is this: the ninjas say there are 7 emotions,
Mm-hmm.
and what happens is at the base of your personality, one of them is the most dominant one.
Yeah.
So what you have to do, ninjas are always self-analyzing, self-testing, and the idea is that you may have heard of it before. It's the idea of the mirror or the flat calm water, and the moon is reflecting in it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's always this idea. And the idea is simply the moon is outside, the water or the mirror is your mind. And if you polish the mirror or you make the water flat, you get a proper reflection of reality. When the water is all over the place and the mirror is dusty, that's the mind of man. It's just muddy and murky and it's all over. So what you have to do is every day polish the mirror, train your mind, identify the false, identify the truth, and learn which of your 7 emotions is your prominent one. Because you always hide the most prominent one. So I've checked mine. Mine is actually, they say you hide one and force another one to the front. So I always hide what is sadness and I force happiness to the front. I'm this happy-go-lucky guy. But they say the moment something problematic happens, a true emergency, that one flashes forward. So if somebody goes instantly angry at a situation, there's his anger. If they go instantly sad and depressed, and then you'll only come up for a few seconds, maybe even less than that. So what happens is a ninja analyzes his mind, makes his mind as polished as possible. So when he faces the enemy, he can instantly recognize they're lying or they're lying to themselves or that's not true. That's their emotion. So
And they can tell that based on like how, like what you see. Like, so I first meet you, you're happy. So that's like,
yeah.
okay, that's his forced. And then you may say something and I'll see like a bit of sadness. It's like, would you even see the sadness or would you not?
So what it means is basically you have to create a stressful situation where someone breaks. So always before they break, they'll force it forward. But you've seen it in a meeting, an office meeting, somebody breaks and they'll shout or something will go wrong. And you can tell then they put it back and say, oh, sorry, I just lost it for a moment. Whenever somebody loses it for a moment, that is the true emotion coming out. So the scrolls
Interesting.
say you can basically if you want to see someone's true nature, get them very drunk because they cannot force or push anything forward. So you get them really drunk. But if you want to know what their mind is like, what they actually desire, then give them pleasure. So take them gambling, sex, roller coasters, and you can find out, and they'll say, oh, let's do that. And then if you let them go further and further, you'll see what their pleasures are, which is the way their mind works. And if you then make them drunk, you'll see their natural nature, what their sort of like their inert nature is. And you differentiate between the two.
Okay, what are the 7 emotions?
Oh, God, you're going to get me thinking now. Right, let me try. Happiness, sadness. If I'd have known this, hold on. I actually have them here. Give me a sec.
Anger's got to be one.
So they actually are multiple versions of them. Just let me get it for you. Oh, so there are multiple versions. I've actually got the book right here. You'll have to excuse me. Okay, delight or happiness, anger, sorrow, pleasure, love, evil, and greed. The problem here is they have different connotations in Japanese, and it's actually something called jo, which the closest translation we have, and the definition in the dictionary is actually emotion, but they're not emotions as we would see them scientifically. They're states of consciousness or states of being at the core.
Okay, so then you see which one is forward. So that's when you actually do things that you said to draw that out. You would actually do things that are pleasurable, and then what would happen? Is that right? You do things that are pleasurable?
For example, you can burn someone's house down. So if you burn the house down, you can automatically, if they're like, oh, it's all right, it's not a problem, we're all right, is everyone safe, are we all happy? That is their natural emotion. But some people, they'll be screaming in anger, who's done this? And you're like, okay, what the point they need this for is because you never bribe someone or attack someone psychologically in a way that isn't going to get their core emotion. So if somebody's depressed, you focus all your mission, your objectives, the psychology about depressing them more. Or if so it talks about the 4 ways: hard, sorry, let me say that again: strong, soft, rigid, and flexible. So no matter what you're doing, you pick one of those. You can either go strong at someone, you can either go weak at someone, let them be in charge, you can be rigid and stop, or you can be flexible and move about. It doesn't matter if you're commanding a battalion, if you're having a psychological conversation with an enemy spy. Those are the 4 ways to manipulate.
Interesting. Okay, so I know. So let's say that I was trying to manipulate you. So let's say that your hidden one is sadness. So I would actually use sadness as a way to, like, show.
So I'm going to be very sad in situations. So, for example, you would probably murder my children, and then I'm going to go. Oh, I'm really going to go like that. Whereas if it was greed, you would put the opportunity of money in front of me. If it was happiness, you would put the opportunity of being more happy. Oh, you've just been given a raise, false information. You've given this, and the next thing is you engage with that emotion very easily, and. So, for example, like if I didn't have a strong will, I would engage with depression or sadness very easily. And if they create a situation that's that much pressure, and I give in to that, but before that I had a strong will, I could be a really dangerous warrior who's hard to get through. But then start killing family members off.
I see.
Yep.
So that's how you can tell. So and so if I'm pleasure. If my hidden thing is pleasure, then I'm going to try to do things that will, like the raise and things like that, or greed. Yep. Or if my strongest one is love, then I may also go killing family members. Or
well, no, you could actually start supplying with them with like someone you'd pay someone or a female agent, depending if it was male, female, or a homosexual relationship, and you would then have someone pretend to fall in love with them and give them and have someone infiltrate that way. If they're really trying to find love, right. You have someone who is suddenly, you would watch them and watch them and watch them. Okay, they like the arts, they like this, they love buying horses. Suddenly you've got a lot of money from your general, and you provide someone who's very attractive, who's a horse trader or who deals in horses, who loves the theatre. And the next thing, you've got somebody on the inside who will slit the throat or open the doors. Or that's why Sun Tzu says, never begrudge wasting silver or gold on spies, because that, even though it's a big amount, in the idea is you pay a spy a lot of money, it's nothing compared to the cost of a war.
Right.
So you give them that money. And what that means is I'll then pay for a really beautiful person. I'll have horses. And it might cost me, say, in our money today, tens of thousands of dollars. But taking that general off the field of battle or killing will save so much more money.
Ah, okay. That's all we need to do with Kim Jong-un. Let's just go ahead.
Send over some
What
beautiful
is
horse
his?
traders.
I think
All
it's
right.
maybe anger. So let's say his is anger.
No,
What
you've
do I
got to
go
be careful
do?
because it's hidden. It's hidden.
Oh, so
You
he's
won't know.
obviously anger. Okay, so there's
He
something.
forces anger, so that's not right. He's not a naturally. Anger can be taken the wrong way, but aggressive, masculine,
Yeah.
over. That he's not that. That's a front. Anyone who
Okay.
does that is a front.
Okay, so what do I need to know for the front? Can I do anything with the front, or is that just don't be fooled by the front?
Don't be fooled by it. Don't fall for that.
Ah,
So
okay.
most low level ninjas will go, okay, I've been watching him. He's an angry person, or he likes this, so I'll do this. And more skilled ninjas are like, no, you've got this wrong. That's not him.
Wow, that's
So that's actually
fascinating.
called Mumon no Ikan, the Gateless Gate, and it's a Zen concept.
Oh
And it means the
my
gate.
God.
So in Zen, it's basically a gate that has no barrier. So the idea is you are your own barrier. But in ninjutsu, in the way of the ninja, it means the real mind behind the gate of the face.
These are just so fascinating. I wish I could just talk to you for like another hour.
Well, this is what I'm trying to sort with people. I'm trying to tell the world that ninjas are really fascinating.
They are really fascinating. I'm so fascinated. We've been talking to Antony Cummins about his book, about his book, Ninja Skills. Thank you so much. This is fascinating.
No problem.
Yeah, very fascinating.
It means so much to me that you're listening to the show. I would love your support in any way by giving me comments below or to subscribe to the show or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.